Sarah, as he said he was, and told Sarah what he did to Sarah, what he said he was going to do. So Sarah had a baby and gave Abraham a son in his old age at the time when God told him he was going to. And Abraham called his name Isaac. And Abraham circumcised Isaac when he was 8 days old, and Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. And Sarah said, God made me laugh so that all that will hear will laugh with me. Oh, hi kids. I'm reading in the Bible in the book of Genesis in chapter 21. You remember when I told you and God had promised Abraham and Sarah that he was going to give him a son? And I mean, he promised him that like when he was 70. He was already pretty old to be having kids at 70. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and still no kids. So finally, Sarah tells Abraham, okay, use Hagar, our servant, as a surrogate mom, and she can have a son for us. And she gives birth to a son named Ishmael. But God comes back to Abraham and says, Ishmael's not the son I promised you. I promised you a son through Sarah. And then he said, in fact, this time next year, she's going to have that son. And Sarah laughed. You remember that? Well, guess what? The next year, Abraham, as he did a lot, was sitting under the tree, and he gets the word that Sarah had the baby. And no surprise at all, it was a boy, and they named him Isaac. Well, God tells you you're going to have a son and you name him Isaac, hey, you name him Isaac, right? Whatever God tells you to name him. So obviously Sarah was thrilled. She said, the Bible was just, what I was just reading, said that Sarah laughed. She was so happy that God gave her a baby when she was so old. Abraham was 100. I think Sarah might have been 90. I don't see that right here, but she was pretty old too. Obviously, I mean, my granddaughter's grandma is only 78, and which is my mom, and she has great-grandchildren. She's 78 and has great-grandchildren, so I can't imagine my mom waiting for several more years before she has another baby. That's just hard to even think about. My dad's 91. I can't imagine him being a father at 91. That's pretty old. That's hard to think about. But Abraham and Sarah were older than that when they had Isaac. Well, Sarah was so thrilled that Isaac was born that she just couldn't contain herself. She started laughing, but then all of a sudden, she remembers that Ishmael and Hagar were around. And Hagar was a lot younger. She was a pretty Egyptian woman. And Sarah's like, wait a minute. She can't stay here. Isaac is our son. Isaac is going to be your heir. And so Abraham was sad because he loved Ishmael too, but he had to, pay attention to his wife and make her happy. And she said, all right, she's got to go. So they sent Hagar and Ishmael away. And they didn't have anything. And they ran out of water, so Hagar sent Ishmael to sit under a tree, and then she went off about, the length of a football field, so she couldn't watch him because she was afraid he was going to die because he didn't have any food and they didn't have any water. And God came to her and said, don't you worry about it. I promised you, and I promised Abraham that Ishmael was also going to be a father of a great nation. I'll take care of you. And so God made her a promise as well, and Ishmael a promise. But he wasn't the promise that God had initially given. God made something good out of somebody doing something they shouldn't have done. But then he fulfilled his promise with Isaac. And Sarah, you can see they look like grandparents, right? But they were the parents of Isaac, a little baby, 100 years old, and in her 90s. Can you imagine that? I can't imagine that. But that's cool. When God says he's going to do something, he does it. He always fulfills his promise. We just can't be so impatient that we don't wait and let him do what he says he's going to do. So next week, we're going to find out about some pretty cool things and interesting things that happened with Isaac as he grew up and as he got older. So you come back and see me next week. It's good seeing you this week. Love you guys. Bye.